deadline for admissions is tomorrow. I'd want to get the numbers on where we are, because we're seeing so many things on the headlines about 1.13 million vis-a-vis 300,000 who've already gotten their.
In terms of the accountability, you see, this country has had a challenge of infrastructure, even in secondary schools. I think we should be realistic and accept that even in those institutions, we did not have enough facilities. So when these facilities were built in secondary schools, it was an added advantage to the institution, so that we decongest those institutions, and the students who are learning those places therefore had extra spaces to utilize. In any event, as we speak today, the students who moved to grade 10 are now the institutions are in a position to admit a slightly larger number than what they used to admit. So that a school that, for example, had capacity to admit maybe 500 students, they can now admit up to 700, because there is an extra classroom that is available. And as I said, the change that was done was necessitated by what is the best thing to be done to the learner. What the driving force, and remember, the competency-based education, it is learner-centered. The best interest of the learner takes precedence. So we look at the age, we looked at the age, they looked at the mental capacity, what will happen. Then they said the best place to domicile these students is in primary schools. So the government had to come up with a solution on how do we domicile that, what do we require, what does that mean? What numbers do we require in terms of classrooms, in terms of labs, in terms of teachers? And that's why we've had a process of employing almost 100,000 teachers to be able to cover that shortfall, to ensure that as these students are coming to these institutions, they are both infrastructure and human resource capable of ensuring that they are getting their education as anticipated in Article 53. Now, coming to the transition from grade 9 to grade 10, which one boy is asking. This is a new system. Remember, we changed the system from formerly exam-based, where the final exam determined whether or not you got into an institution, into competency-based, which is a 360 sort of paradigm shift, where in the exam that was done, the Kenya Junior Secondary Education Assessment, these students in grade 9 already came into that assessment with 40% marks already earned. They earned 20% in grade 4, 5, and 6, and they earned another 20% in grade 7 and 8, and the assessment accounted for 60%. So everything that you've been doing contributes towards your end grade, which was not the position in 844. Now, what then that means is that we changed even the grading system. The best competency was exceeding expectation, EE. The next one is meeting expectation, approaching expectation, or below expectation. Yeah. And of course, a lot of people, instead of trying to understand the EE as a description of what you've gotten, some people I saw in the paper saying now the E has become the A, which is not the position. EE was just a description of what somebody has an exceeding expectation. And because we are now moving into pathways, when you move from grade 9 to grade 10, you move into a pathway. There are 3 pathways. There's the STEM pathway, which is a science pathway, a social science pathway, that's like arts, and the sports pathway, which is sports and arts. Yeah. Now, the government bottom-up economic transformation agenda and vision 2030 wants or emphasizes towards us moving toward science-based economy so that we can industrialize. So our target was to have at least 60% of the students being able to do STEM. And to date, from our analysis, 53% of them are now moving to do STEM, 38% are doing social sciences, and 11% will be doing arts and sports. Now, this is a system where you would go to do STEM because your weighted average for the STEM subjects from grade 1 all the way to grade 9 indicates that this is where you are better off competency. These are where your competencies are, this is where you are skilled. So you go towards that. And this is a gradual process that has been taking place from the first time you came into school, so that the teachers determine and yourself that you are more better placed to do this. It's akin to what we used to do in the previous system, where when you used to go from 5 and 6, you would go on a cluster of the best subjects that you've done, so that you can go to medicine, engineering, law, or arts. It's exactly the same thing. So now, when you are joining the school, you'll be joining to do a pathway. So you say, I'm going to Alliance, but I'm going to do STEM. I'm going to Alliance, I'm going to do social sciences. So that challenge became a bit of a problem for parents. Remember, when these students were choosing their schools, they chose 12 schools. And we've categorized schools into 4 categories. There's C1, which sort of is equivalent to what we used to call national schools, C2, C3, and C4, which are now the secondary schools. So they were choosing 12 schools, 3 in C1, 3 in C2, 3 in C3, and 3 in C4. Now, what happened is most students, and this is where we had a bit of a challenge, would, for example, choose their best 3 in C1, their best 3 in C2, their best 3 in C3, and then they forget either to do the C4. Then their teachers, for example, would fill for them the C4. So because the system we used, which is our new chemistry system, we admitted students using the module, the placement module in the chemistry system, was not sending any child to a school that they did not choose. So even where you had parents saying, my child has been sent to a school that is too far, or that they actually, in their documents, and we were showing them when they were coming to Jogo House to find out, showing them your child actually chose this school. But if you want us to change, because we have more spaces, we can do the revision. That's why we opened those windows for revision and for changing and all that, so that they can be able